Ruben is struggling. We know that. Today I'm going to show Manchester United's recruitment department how to buy players not based on this, but instead based on this. And you won't believe the results and the players that end up at the club. So first up, the setup, and these are the leagues that will be involved. The top 5 from around Europe, plus Portugal, plus the Netherlands. So next we start unemployed, and when we get to the home screen, we're going to holiday for a year. But first, the home screen consists of the Musterman skin, which is absolutely vital for this. We're going to go on holiday till the end of May 2024, which gives us a full season for the data to all be gathered for every league. Fast forward now to the 31st of May, we are ready to take up the United job. As we get to Manchester United, we notice that it hasn't gone great. Ruben's gone, Maurizio Sarri's in charge, and the team finished 11th in the league. But to be fair though, the way this season's gone, they'd be delighted with that. But you will notice as I click on a random player, this is Mo Salah, that his pizza chart is completely filled out now with his data from the season, and obviously he's had a superb season. This is the Manchester United squad we'll be taking over. The only transfers that have came in that are not from the real world this season is Jean-Mathieu Bahoya from Eintracht Frankfurt and Johan Boni from Parma. So now I'm going to add myself as the new Manchester United manager, and we are good to go. Right, so the first thing I need to do is see what sort of season these boys have had, because it's important not to take into account the real world scenario. For example, we know Onana's had a bit of a nightmare for United, but has he been good in FM? I've also created a tactic inspired by the way Ruben likes to set his side up. Question is, how will these players fit into it and have they performed this season? And we start with Onana. First thing I notice is he's let more goals in than he should have. Although conceding 47 in 44 isn't a disaster, but let's look a little bit deeper. In the Premier League, he's conceded 41 in 31 matches, not great. If I fly over to the league table and go to player overview, first off I'm going to check out expected goals prevented. And the problem is, I can't see him anywhere. In fact, he's bottom. And just above him is the backup keeper. Not good. In terms of clean sheets, he's all the way down in 21st, and his save percentage is all the way down in 22nd. So it's clear to me I'm going to need a better goalkeeper for this challenge. But I don't want to get a whole new team into season 1, and there are some positives. Luke Shaw, for example, playing at left wing back, that's a pretty good pizza chart. Now he's done a combination of playing at left back, which he's played well, but he was even better at left wing back. So for me, as long as he stays fit, he stays. On the other side, however, Diego Dallo nowhere near as impressive. He loses the ball far too much and he doesn't win it back either. And he's someone who actually plays better at right back than at wing back. And because we're going to play Ruben's system, we might need to replace him. Now I do expect that we'll need to replace the centre backs, but let's have a little look at them. Martinez has actually been quite impressive as a ball playing defender. Good dribbles, good progressive passes, his passes completely good, and he doesn't lose the ball much. Granted, he doesn't win many headers, but for season 1 he stays. It's a similar story for De Ligt. He's a good ball playing defender, but we just need an out and out defender here to win those headers. Lenny Yoro has barely played, so he might be worth a chance next season. Harry Maguire has played a bit and has looked pretty good, but at 32 he could be one we replace. A key area of the pitch is going to be central midfield. At the minute I've got a holding midfielder and one I'm looking to be more aggressive. On the face of things, Ugarte should be absolutely ideal for the role. This is him as a defensive midfielder, however. As you can see, he does win the ball back well, doesn't lose it much. His progressive passes are really low and he doesn't pressure the ball. That's not a big concern for me because I want him to hold the position, so he might get a pass. Now Kobbie Mainoo has played 28 times from the start with 12 coming from the bench. As a defensive midfielder, it's not great. However, if I flip this chart to more attacking midfielder, which is what I want my Segunde Volante to do, it gets a lot better, so that could be a role for him. At the minute, unless I can find someone to improve these two drastically for season 1, they do stay. And at this point, you're probably wondering about the much maligned Casemiro, but it's probably not what you'd expect because as far as the season goes in defensive midfield, he's probably been the best of the three in terms of winning the ball back and a more defensive player. However, at 33 years of age, it's time to get some value back. Higher up the pitch, the front three are going to be vital. You'll notice we've got Bruno, we've got Garnacho, but we've got a gap in the striker position. Now it looks like this season, Xerxes was the man who got the starting role. He scored 18 times in 38 matches, and his actual pizza chart is not too bad. However, if we look at the season stats, he did only score 7 times in the Premier League, and that's where the raw talent of Rasmus Højlund might come into play. He didn't play nearly as much as Xerxes, but his non-penalty expected goals is high, as are his shots. And in the Premier League, he scored 9 times from just 13 starts. But the main reason I'm keeping it blank, that's because on loan is of course Marcus Rashford. Now he's away at Aston Villa at the minute. He's having a good season though. He's scored 26 times in 41 matches and his striker chart is very good. And I use the striker chart because that's where he's played for Aston Villa. 41 games, 25 goals. Season 1, those three will probably compete for that attacker position. I'm not sure which one's going to play yet. How about Garnacho? Well, he scored 12 times in 40 matches with just 5 assists. For me, that's slightly disappointing. If I look at his pizza chart, you can see his expected assist is 0.10. He excels with dribbling, but he gives the ball away an absolute ton. Having said that, he is performing well with an average rating of 7.37 from that left-hand side, so he's definitely worth giving another try to. On the other side is the iconic Bruno Fernandes, and as you can see from his pizza chart, he's had another fantastic season. He's been used in a variety of positions, mostly as an attacking midfielder on the right-hand side, which is probably where I'm going to play him. It's good to see he scored 12 times, 7 assists with a really good average rating there. However, we do need to be wary that he's 30, so if we don't accomplish our task in Season 1, he might be someone we cash in on, especially with that value. Okay, for Season 1, I want to take things pretty steady. You'll notice there's 3 gaps in the team. Goalkeeper, defensive midfielder, and striker. Now the striker position I'm going to keep in-house. Rashford, Højlund, Xerxes will compete for that spot. I want a new goalkeeper, and defensive midfielder, I just want a bigger physical presence. Ugarte is in prime position for that role, but he's just not being physical enough. He's not winning enough headers. Casemiro's been better, but he's just getting on a bit and won't be able to get around the pitch. So first up, a goalkeeper. I want a goalkeeper that can actually stop goals going in. I mean, look, there's an absolute ton of keepers that want to join Manchester United. Of course there is, but we're going to get a bit more picky. We bring in the chalkboard and we go to expected goals prevented per 90 minutes. 0 means basically a goal a match. Now Onana is under that, which means he's letting in more than a goal a match. So we're going to get a bit ambitious and go for 0.25. We'll get by a new bunch of players. Emi Martinez, for example, at Aston Villa has prevented a whopping 0.29 per match. Loads of clean sheets. He'd be absolutely ideal, but I don't think we'll get him. The other thing to bear in mind, I want to fix this. They're in debt by a whopping 170 million. So going back to this screen, a player like Alex Meret at Napoli, although he's absolutely fantastic, that value, we just can't do it. Instead, I noticed Mark Flecken at Brentford. He may be 31, but his actual pizza chart is superb, and his expected goals prevented is one of the best in the league. Add to that, his transfer value is very, very gettable. There's a few things to bear in mind here. Number one, Brentford got relegated, so he's going to be cheaper. And as you can see from his expected goals prevented, though, he was the second best in the league, despite being in a poor team. The second goalkeeper shorted was Mateus, who's on loan at Ajax. His pizza chart, superb and value for money. Despite being 32 years old, he could be a good choice. But how about that key position of defensive midfield? I'm looking for an all-round midfielder with good physicality, who's got more progressive passes than Ugarte, because he's going to start a lot of the moves off. Up pops Amadou Onana, who's just signed for Aston Villa for 1 season. Look at the headers won, the progressive passes, and the possession won back. He could be absolutely ideal. 6'4", an ideal physical presence. However, that's a big value to put on a player. Can we afford him? On the right hand side, we basically want a clone of Luke Shaw. So what I'm looking for, because he's going to play high up and be the main outlet on the right hand side, is some good dribbling and expected assists. Here 2 players came up. The first was Victor Gomez of Braga. Great progressive passes, doesn't lose the ball, wins it back, good assists. The other option was Alexander Ba from Benfica. Very similar pizza chart, loses the ball a little bit more, slightly cheaper. So for Season 1, tactics are in place, targets have been identified. Let's see what the team looks like starting Season 1. We wanted a mini clear out and we've got one, bringing in 95 million. Casemiro went for 26 million. Onana to Chelsea for 55. Lindelof goes to West Ham on loan but will join permanently. And I sent Diego Dalot to Benfica for 50 million. Mark Flecken won the battle to be our new goalkeeper. Victor Gomez joined PSG, so I settled on Alexander Ba for right wing back. He'll be backed up by Alessandro Zaniolo. And perhaps a surprising signing, but with Johnny Evans retiring, I needed someone back up for free transfer. Willy Bolly fits the bill. But the big signing was Amadou Onana. With all the outgoings, I managed to fund his transfer for 70 million. Which means for Season 1, the team looks a bit like this. We're going to have a back three of Martinez, Yoro and De Ligt. They get another season to prove themselves. Flecken in behind them. Wing backs of Shaw and a more attacking one in Ba. Kobbie Mainoo's going to get the attacking midfield role, with Onana being the physical presence. Garnacho, Fernandes supporting one of Xerxes, Højlund or Marcus Rashford. At the halfway point of the season, things were looking good as we were sat in 3rd place, 6 points behind leaders Tottenham. And there'd been some impressive performances along the way, including beating Liverpool 3-1. The signing of Onana looked to be a great one, as he was excelling in all metrics in defensive midfield. He was partnered by Kobbie Mainoo, who had a chance to concentrate more on the attacking side of his game, but I would like to see a bit more of an overall performance. The other big signing was Alexander Ba, and as an attacking wing-back, he's absolutely flying. He gives the ball away a lot, but that's made up for the fact that he's got 10 assists already this season. Starting most games up front has been Marcus Rashford, and it's been the right decision as he's banging in the goals. And finally, it's nice to see Garnacho not giving the ball away as much. And despite getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Man City, we're competitive in all other competitions. So far, so good. Season 1 comes to its conclusion with no joy in the Cups, as we're knocked out in the quarter-finals of the Cup by Tottenham, and the Europa League by Aston Villa. However, the performance in the Premier League was so much better than last season's 11th place, as we finished second, just 3 points off champions Tottenham. And it was great to see the top assist maker in the entire league was our right wing back Alexander Ba. And the gamble to pay big money for Onana paid off, as he was probably the most complete midfielder in the entire league. So a cracking season 1. Now, ironically, the only player who kind of struggled a little bit was Bruno on that right-hand side. On the face of it was a decent season, 12 goals, 15 assists, but if you look at it a bit closer, so down here, his Premier League performance, just 7 goals, 6.99 average rating. He's capable of much more than that. And Garnacho on the other side probably had a better all-round season. He scored 18 times with 11 assists, and his pizza chart just meant that he just contributed a little bit more. So for next season, there's going to be a couple of changes. The first one, don't know why I didn't do this in the first place. I've moved the defensive midfielder to that slot and the volante on the other side. So they've switched positions, because if you think on the right-hand side we've got Bar, who spends most of his time playing as a winger. I did have the volante there, so there's a big gap down this side. So the defensive midfield is going to sit on that side. Now if Fernandes stays, I'm going to move him infield to their back and dominate that side. We'll have Fernandes roaming around in there, see if we get a better season out of him. Now the back three is probably somewhere where we need to put in a bit of work. So Martinez is a good defender, but he doesn't win any headers. Let's be honest, he's 5'9", but as a ball playing defender, he's pretty decent. I think we need a little bit more from that position. Lenny Yoro had a full season. He's only 20. He showed decent promise. The best player at the back there was Matthijs de Ligt. He had a good all-round season. So I've made the decision to remove Yoro, who's going to be more of a bench player, and I'm going to cash in on Martinez and look to gain 2 better, more physical defenders. This position's interesting, the volante. Now, Kobe Mainoo, he did pretty well in that Segunde volante position. I was just looking for a little bit more in terms of defending as well, because at the end of the day, he is still a defensive midfielder. So Ugarte did come in quite a few times and give me a bit more of an all-round performance, but I think that position could be one where we look at. Onana is cracking going forward. If you look at his playing style, runs through ball with centre, tries killer balls, and that is the ultimate all-round performance. He even scored 8 goals with 10 assists, so I'm thinking maybe putting him as the volante and finding a different player to sit in there. What we need is a signing to have the impact that Alexander Bar did. Open play key passes, he was top. Expected assists, top. Assists per 90 minutes, top. And his average rating, best in the league. We did make a good move with the goalkeeper though. Mark Flecken was 3rd in the league for expected goals prevented. Ironically, Onana's having a good season at Chelsea. Again, top 5 for conceded per 90 minutes and tied 3rd for save percentage, so he's a great keeper. With all that transfer business, we managed to get the club on a positive footing in terms of finance. So for next season, we have a healthy transfer budget, and that should be increased when we get rid of some more players. Into season 2, the shortlist is looking packed. First priority, a physically dominating centre-back. Jared Brandthwaite hits the bill. Headers 1, exceptional. Also on that centre-back shortlist is Nikola Milenkovic from Nottingham Forest. He will be a good budget option at just 10 to 13 million. I'm going ahead with plans to play Onana as a volante, so I need a different holding midfielder. And this one might surprise you. An interesting budget option could be former Arsenal midfielder Albert Lukongu. Doesn't give the ball away, wins it back, decent at passing. If you compare him to Ugarte, he wins the ball back far more and loses it far less. I'm also keeping an eye on options for that side of the pitch in case Bruno Fernandes leaves. That's because there's big interest in him from Saudi and he was kicking up a fuss and wants to go. This could be where we need a big name signing to replace a big name. Option includes Berardi from Sassuolo, Julian Brandt from Dortmund, but that value is scaring me off a bit. And with Barcelona struggling for finances, Rafinha could be a little pickup. As we're about to start season 2, there has been more transfer activity than I actually wanted to happen, with 249 million coming in. Add that to the 143 million from last season, it's clear some big moves were needed for this squad. We nearly signed him last season, but we've signed him this season. Matthijs joins as a backup goalkeeper. And we did complete those signings we were looking at. Jared Brandthwaite joins from Everton for 50 million, Milenkovic joins from Nottingham Forest for 13, and Lukongu joins for midfield for 22. This is the team for season 2. You might notice a couple of different players there. Late in the transfer window, in fact within the last 2 weeks, Luke Shaw goes to Saudi for 70 million. Didn't want to sell him. He was fantastic, he played great for us. But 70 million for a 31-year-old, got to take it. And a similar story with Bruno, goes to Saudi, 120 million. 31. So I replaced those two with a big outlay, 75 million for Destiny Udogie. It's a lot of money, but if you consider Shaw went for 70, he came for 75. 8 years younger, his actual abilities, he's probably a better player. And to replace Bruno, we got someone for less than half the price in Rafinha for 50 million. I'm excited to see how he goes. It all means the team looks like this. So Onana's going to be the attacking midfielder, backing up the strikers. Lukongu's just going to sit, win it back, play it easy. He's got the attacking wing back of Bar, the top assist maker in the league last season. That centre-back three looks so much better now. You've got Flecken as the goalkeeper, one of the best in the league last season. You've got Brandthwaite, the best header of a ball last season. Milenkovic in the middle, de Ligt on the right-hand side. First game of the season was the Community Shield against Premier League winners Tottenham. Nice to see the new players getting involved. Bramford winning the ball back, finding Lukonga with a little easy ball. Ends up at Rafinha, who does the rest. We win that one 5-1. In fact, the start of the season's been absolutely fantastic, including beating Premier League newcomers Hull 8-0, Brentford 6-1, beating FC Bayern away from home 2-0, and smashing rivals Liverpool 4-1. It means at the halfway point of the season we are top of the league, but it's awfully tight with that top 5. We're also in every other competition, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup in the semis, and we've qualified already from the Champions League. Playing as a Volante, Onana's given me that all-round performance I wanted for my attacking defensive midfielder. And next to him, Lukonga, look at those progressive passes. That's exactly what we needed, and he's throwing himself into tackles. At the back, Jared Bramford has been the outstanding centre-back in the entire league. It's a stunning pizza chart. And the expected assists of Alexander Barr completely blow anybody else away. As we get to the end of the season, Man City beat us in the Carabao Cup semi-final, and randomly we got knocked out of the FA Cup by West Brom. But in the big games that mattered, we really stood up tall and battered PSG 4-0 in the semi-final of the Champs. As a backup striker, Højlund was an absolute dream. Look at that non-penalty expected goals. 15 goals he scored with only 9 starts. That's because Rashford has completely blown away his best ever season, scoring 40 times. Rafinha replacing Bruno Fernandes was the right move. Garnacho continued to be a better player on the ball. All those factors combined got us all the way to the Champions League final, but we lost in extra time to Inter Milan. However, this 4-1 away win at Brighton on the final day of the season meant we complete our objective. Manchester United are Premier League title winners once again. So that's great success. We've turned the club round. We brought in the right players, a mixture of youth, energy, better players on the ball. For the second successive season, Alexander Barr, wingback, got the most assists in the league, just ahead of Onana. So we moved Onana away from the defensive midfield position, more into like a box-to-box, kind of like a Yaya Toure role, getting forward, getting back. That picture chart shows he's doing a lot of it. If you want to be picky, you'd have more possession won, but he's getting forward a hell of a lot, as you can see by goals 15, assists 16. And not the most sexy signing, Lukonga. Much maligned his time at Arsenal, didn't really work for him at Palace, but for what I needed, a holding midfielder just to get it and give it, he did the perfect job. And all that for 22 million. I think the biggest bargain was Flecken in goals though, he made a massive difference. Now his expected goals prevented there is 0.05, but that's over every competition. If I scroll down here, you can see in the Premier League, 29 conceded in 38 matches and 16 clean sheets. Massive improvement, as was Jared Bramford, best centre-back in the Premier League this season. And that little change of putting the defensive midfielder on that side was definitely the right thing to do. In some cases, it was just trying to find the right role for the players currently at the club. So Rashford, for example, now I've just let him be the striker. Look at the state of that pizza chart. And Matthias de Ligt as well. Play to his strengths, make him a ball-playing defender, put him in a back three. That's the perfect result. So what was nearly a dream season, basing the transfers on data, has turned the club around. In total, we bought 12 players in at a value of 387 million. We sold 21, bringing in 478. A job well done. There's the template for Manchester United's recruitment team. Study the data. Dortmund are on a bit of a barren spell in Germany. This season finishing 4th place, but a whopping 25 points behind FC Bayern. And there's been no Bundesliga title since 2011-2012. But surely the squad's really good, right? Today I'm going to show the Borussia Dortmund hierarchy that they don't need to spend a ton of money because the answers to success could already be at the squad. So here are the leagues involved for this one. We've got the top 5 European nations, but we've also added in Portugal and a couple of nations close to Germany in Austria and Turkey. Next up, we start unemployed, and then it's time to go on holiday. So now we're going on holiday till the end of May 2024, so all that data from all those leagues can be gathered up. So here we are at the end of the 23-24 season, and we're ready to take over Dortmund. As we get to Dortmund, we notice that Niko Kovac is still the manager, so that bodes well. In fact, the season's gone very well for them indeed. They finished second in the table, only losing 7 times, but they did finish 16 points behind Bayern München. And it looks like a good season, if not a little inconsistent, and there's no cup performance to write home about either. Clicking on one of the squads, so Emre Can, you can see that his pizza chart is fully decked out with statistics, so we can analyse who had a good season and who never. Here is the Dortmund squad that we will be taking over. It's quite a bulky looking one with a couple of players out on loan due to come back. And transfer wise, they did make some moves in the January transfer window that don't reflect real life. Dan Undoy came in from Bologna to play down the wing, and centre back Israel Reyes. So it looks like a tough act to follow from Niko Kovac, but that's what we're going to do as we add ourselves in and swiftly become the new manager. Right, so this is a big squad we've got to work through here. There's a couple out on loan, there's a couple in on loan, but Jan Couto, for example, is a player who is joining us from City. He's an attacking fullback, and first glances it looks really good. You can see how attacking he is, but his defensive side of his game is not great. This is where we look into it a little bit deeper, and we notice that a lot of the time he's played as a winger, so maybe the previous manager realised he wasn't the best as a fullback. His season stats show he's been good, if not spectacular, but this is a transfer that's pre-arranged, so we need to get the best out of him. Another player when you think of Dortmund is Karim Adeyemi, the brilliant explosive striker. However, when we have a closer look, it doesn't look like he's had a great season despite Dortmund performing well. 7 goals in 36 matches, and when we look at where he's played this season, it's a pretty even split between out wide, as an inside forward maybe, and as a striker. His overall average rating is not bad, but his performance as a striker hasn't blown me away there. And his performance as an attacking midfielder is even worse. As we look closer at his abilities, he's not a player I immediately want to discard, as abilities are ranked excellent in a lot of areas. So that being said, a player like Adeyemi and Jan Couto are giving me a challenge to find the tactic that will get the best out of both of them for season 1. So Jan Couto may not be the answer to play at right back. In fact, when I take a stroll over to this screen and drop down to player overview, when it comes to tackles per 90 minutes, he's all the way down in 36th. Tackles won, all the way down in 27th, and interceptions made, it gets even worse as he's all the way down in 54th. However, on the flip side, when it comes to chances created, he's the top fullback ranked at 18th. He also ranks high in terms of assists as well, so maybe it's just a case of getting his actual starting position and player role correct for him. Now here's where it gets interesting, because on the other side you've got Julian Rierson, who probably started a lot of the matches at left back. There you can see half of them at right back, half of them at left back. He's not an assist maker by any means. What he does do is a pretty elite defender. Most of the defensive metrics he's on top of. He's second for tackles won, third tackles per 90 minutes, 7th for interceptions, so that's his strength. So despite being unspectacular going forward, just 0.09 expected assists, doesn't dribble the ball much either, his strength is defending. So all that being said, the tactic we're going to go with and build this team around is a version of the 4-2-3-1 that Dortmund have been using, but one where the key players we've focused on should excel. We'll start with Jan Couto. I'm going to bow down and give him a role as a complete wing-back on attack, meaning he can go forward with reckless abandon, knowing that he's got 2 defensive midfielders to cover him should he get caught upfield. As for Adeyemi, didn't excel out wide, so I'm going to put him up front as an advanced forward. For the whole season, we've added roam from position. So what about the other defensive positions? Well, the good news comes at centre-back. Niklas Süle has had an elite season, doesn't lose the ball, wins it back, wins plenty of headers. His defensive partner wins the ball back an absolute ton as well, doesn't win as many headers nor tackles, but looks to be more of a ball-playing defender. Now last season they played a 4-2-3-1 with a double defensive shield there. Now Emre Can feels like he's been around forever, but his pizza chart is pretty elite for a defensive midfielder. The only worry I have with him really is his age at 31, but for now he definitely stays. His midfield partner for most of the season was Salih Özcan. Now he's a defensive midfielder and he does the simple things well. Doesn't lose the ball, wins it back, progresses the ball nicely, but that could potentially be improved. He's a player in a position that we'll keep an eye on. One player we don't have to worry about and a position we don't have to worry about is the goalkeeper. Gregor Kobel, absolutely outstanding. Preventing goals, loads of clean sheets, wins the ball back, doesn't lose it, completes plenty of passes. He is an absolute world-class goalkeeper. If I was to start right now, defence goalkeeper, pretty happy with. The defensive midfielders we could probably get by with, but we probably need to have a little look at them in the future. Interestingly, it's the attacking positions that are the ones that are under threat. So we talked about Adeyemi, not sure what to do with him yet, but we're going to give him another chance. On the other side, Jamie Bino Gittens is an interesting case. In fact, he reminds me a lot of Garnacho from the Manchester United video that we did. His actual season stats have 28 appearances, 8 goals, 8 assists, with a good average rating, looks really good. However, when you look at his pizza chart for an attacking midfielder, his goals and his dribbles are good, but he seems to be lacking. He's played a combination of on the left mostly and on the right, but there's 2 ways to look at this. So his actual output of 16 goal contributions from 28 games is pretty good. His pizza chart, his overall performance isn't, so that tells me that there is room for him to really grow. And remember, he is only 20 years of age, so that could explain some inconsistencies. Julian Brandt had a good season, 13 goals, 10 assists. Peter Chat for an attacking midfielder is pretty good. The striker position is an interesting one. We've got Garassi here, who only played 24 times, not a lot of minutes either, did manage to score 11 times. Looking at his Peter Chart, he gets a lot of shots away, decent non-penalty expected goals. He's probably worth a more extended run up front. So we've just analysed last season's first choice 11. Now it's time to have a little look at some of the players who didn't quite get the game time. First up, Rami Bensebaini. So he's a left fullback. He might get a chance with us, 30 years of age, but if I look at his fullback performance here, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good overall performance for the lack of minutes. Question is it good enough to start at left back? This is the player they brought in January, Israel Reyes, for centre back. He hasn't played a ton of minutes at all, so it's hard to judge, but from what he has played, he looks like a really good option. Now here's an interesting one. This is Felix Nemecha. Now, he's only started 10 matches. Most of the time he's come off the bench. That's his overall performance. But what gets interesting is when we look here where he's played 16 matches as a DM. Now he's more of an attacking midfielder, and if we look at his ability levels here, the flair stands out, the technique stands out. So he might give us an option. And if we look at the performance against other defensive midfielders, attacking wise, and in fact defensive wise, that is pretty elite. So he's given me a decision to make, whether he's going to be good enough for a starting role as a bit more of an adventurous defensive midfielder. And this is why you should check out the players in your squad that have got a decent amount of minutes, so you can have a little look to see if they're capable of jumping into the team. Giovanni Reina is another one of those options. He's only started 18 matches, but he has managed 4 assists. Most of his games were on the left, but he can play on the right or through the centre. It looks like a good squad player at this stage. There's a couple of players of ours that have been out on loan. Sebastian Haller has been in the Eredivisie and he's bagged 12 goals in 29 matches. And as a striker, in comparison to our strikers, he's had a good season. The other player out on loan is Yusuf Makoko, but he hasn't had enough game time to really evaluate, only 900 minutes. Now if we're looking to improve this squad, we've got 35 million to do it with. So our main focus will be looking for a defensive midfielder to take the place of Emre Can, just in case injuries catch up with him at 31 years of age. So what I'm looking for is progressive passes with at least 6.50 and a tackle completion rate high at 80%. Salzburg player Mads Bistrup stands out an absolute mile with his Peter Chart. But we've got to remember the Moneyball concept of getting players in on a decent budget. Nicola Fagioli, who is on loan at Fiorentina, has had a pretty good season, as has Fran Beltran at Celta Vigo, but at 5'5", he's maybe not the physical presence I'm looking for. So a bit of work to do, not as much as I thought we were going to do, because the actual squad is really strong. Just maybe 1 or 2 additions with future seasons in mind. As we return for the start of the season, there's been a bit of movement on the transfers out front. 6.25 million with the main player leaving us. Pascal Gross at 34 years of age, despite having a really good season for us, 5 million was just too good to turn down. The rest was largely loans and squad players. Now 4 players total came in, 2 were predetermined before I even got there. One was fullback cover, Daniel Svensson, and the big outlay, 30 million big, was Jan Couto. That's not a deal I would have made, but we're going to make the best of it as we can. The deals I did get over the line was Mads Bistrup. 15 million seems like an absolute snip, and I've double dropped for that midfield position, future-proofing the squad with Nicolo Fagiolo. It means the team looks a bit like this, and you'll notice as 2 defensive midfield positions are up for grabs because we've got so much quality there. These are all the players that can play in that position. Even the centre-backs and full-back fancy their chances in there, but then you've got Emre Can, you've got Salih Özcan, there's Nicola Fagiolo, Mads Bistrup. We are packed. The rest of the team looks pretty solid. I'm taking a risk and moving Bino Gittins over to the left-hand side, but he's a natural playing out there as well. And the other gap at the minute is the striker position because we've got loads of cover there too. It will be one of Gerassi, Haller, or even Makoku to partner Adeyemi. So that's the transfer business done for this season. It says 64 million, but bear in mind 35.5 million of that was already done by the previous regime. So we've just bought in those 2 midfielders for the future. And what I like about this challenge in comparison to the previous one with Manchester United is I don't think they need a lot of work. What we're concentrating on here is getting the players in their better position and roles, largely down to their performances last season. At the halfway point of the season, we were doing okay. Sat in 3rd position, so slightly down from last season, but we have only lost 2 matches. We've looked really impressive in some games, such as this one, beating AC Milan 3-0 in the Champions League with Adeyemi doing what he does best. Accepting Jan Couto as the attacking full-on fullback he is has worked out well. He's got absolutely exceptional Peter Chart stats for attacking with 7 assists already this season. He's been helped out considerably by the defensive midfielders doing the work, and as you can see from Salihoscan there, they're winning the ball back, allowing him to sprint forward. Adeyemi is definitely performing better than he was last season. In fact, he's already scored the same amount of league goals and we're only halfway through the season. Player of the season so far has been Bino Gittins, and it's good to see an improvement in terms of his off-the-ball work as well. And Ryerson continues to be the polar opposite of Jan Couto. It's mad how little he does going forward. Now the Champions League has been a bit tougher and we're going to struggle to qualify from this, it looks like. However, in the Pokal we're into the quarterfinals, where it looks likely that at some point we may well meet FC Bayern. As we come to the end of the season, despite this absolutely thumping win over Maccabi Haifa in the Champions League, we go out at the group stage. And in the Bundesliga, we got a very credible 2-2 draw away at FC Bayern. In fact, from January, the second half of the season, we only lost one match. That meant we finished second yet again, but it's a much improved performance from last season. We only lost 3 matches all season. If we can turn some of these draws into wins, we might get a little bit closer to FC Bayern. So really promising stuff. We'll go through some of the better performances in a minute and see which players we might need to replace. But if we look at the league table and we get it up here, we can see that 73 points, so still quite a way behind Bayern. But if you look at last season, where they finished with 61 points, we've gained 12 points. So there's definitely promise there. And wait just a minute, there's even more promise when you look at what happened in the Pokal final. We played rivals FC Bayern in the final and they couldn't deal with our start as Jan Couto supplied the assist. Bayern did get one back, but we take down the Pokal. And that risk to play Nemecha as a more attacking defensive midfielder seems to have paid off. And Gittins was outrageous, absolutely stunning attacking performance, and he's definitely getting better and his teamwork side of the game too. And Gerassi was once again lethal up front. He started more times in a slightly withdrawn role, but look at that. Now, ironically, the one player who didn't have the best season was Julian Brandt, who was superb last season. There he is. Now, there's his attacking midfielder statistics. Not bad. He didn't lose the ball much, but it wasn't as explosive as last season. As a reminder, last season, 10 goals, 8 assists. This time, although his average rating was comparable, only 8 goal contributions. It might be that the more attacking lineup, we've got 2 strikers up front, just took a bit of the shine off him, so we'll persist with him. But I am looking at him being 30 and of a high value. We rotated quite a lot in defensive midfield. Now, Salihoscan was probably the best overall player. Look at that. That is a really nice pizza chart for a defensive midfielder, but he did only start 19 matches. Emre Can started most of the matches because I wanted to get another season out of him. But now at 32, wanted by a host of teams and out of contract, I think it's time to let him go and let one of those 2 signings from last season into his spot. Now, the only other way I can see us improving this team is if we go all out attacking with the opposite fullback. As we've discovered, Ryerson, super solid. Gets the ball, gives it, progressive passes, so he moves it on, wins it back, doesn't give it away, but doesn't offer much going forward. So the big decision will be whether we cash in on him, because he is a wanted man, and replace him with a more attacking type of fullback. It's a big decision to make. The rest of the team, more than happy with it. We might need to just keep an eye on the strikers because Adeyemi will probably be wanted at some point. But to be fair, when called upon, Moukoko did well, 7 goals in just 14 starts. And a potential replacement for Julian Brandt, if I do decide to cash in, is already at the club in Gio Reyna. Superb. And whatever happens, whether we bring someone in or we change a player's position, we want them to have the effect that it had on Jan Couto. Joint second in terms of assists, third for key passes, top for chances created, and crosses attempted, 400. So a big pre-season ahead, and I've started to build the shortlist. You might notice there's a few left backs, attacking ones at that, such as David Ram. This is because I'm toying with the option of having 2 attacking fullbacks either side, and if we can get someone like him, it would be ideal, although that value kind of rules him out. Another option would be Marc Cucurella, who's actually gone to Real Madrid, has found game time pretty hard, but when he has played, he's been pretty elite. Now this would be a potential riskier signing. Triffer from Rennes, fantastic going forward, but offers almost nothing defending. Now a more sensible signing, and probably a bit safer, could be Alexa Terzic from Salzburg. He's only going to cost between 9 and 13 million. My plan would be to use him in certain games where we can afford to use more attacking fullbacks. That would mean we'd start games with Ryerson and then bring Terzic on if we're looking to attack. The other thing I want to continue to do is lower the average age of this squad. I also need to find a backup player for Jan Couto, and with Sebastian Haller out of contract and leaving the club, I'm going to look for backup and competition for the striker positions to put pressure on Gerassi. In expected goals, both my guys featured prominently, and there was another player that featured prominently as well, Roberto Piccoli at Frankfurt, not a regular, started 22 matches, outstanding expected goals and goals per game and shots. He might give us something a little bit different, and at that value could be an absolute bargain. Another option at the same club was Eli Wahi. Another option was over in Spanish football, Marko Milovanovic playing for Almeria. Now, because this squad is that good from the get-go, I'm going to try and concentrate this season on lowering that average age and having a couple of players to do a couple of jobs. So I'm really happy with Nemecha. He's going to stay in that role as the more attacking defensive midfielder, if that makes sense. He's the one who gets forward a little bit more, takes on the riskier passes, and you can see that with his chart. Next to him, it was mostly Emre Can last season. So in true Moneyball style, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that position with 2 or 3 players to get the overall outcome that Emre Can managed. So that was Ozcan. Bidstrup barely played. In fact, I sent him out on loan after an injury, but this season when he comes back, he will compete with Ozcan and they'll kind of share that workload. You can see when he does play, he does the right things. So the board have given us nearly 50 million to spend for next season. We're going to generate more funds when a lot of these older players get moved on because we can still get some decent whack for them. Coincidentally, finances at the club are not a problem. They are absolutely minted. With the season about to start, I was right about the transfers out. We've generated another 88 million. We shipped out some older squad players. Sabitzer went to Marseille and Ben Sibiani went to Zenit. But the big money came from the sale of Niklas Sule. I did not want to do it, but they just paid far too much. 63 million rising to 85 for a 30-year-old had to be taken. But thanks to that shortlist we built at the end of last season with last season's statistics, we have made some signings. Brandon Soapy does join us for just 7 million for a backup fullback. Piccoli will compete for striker position at only 7 million, and Terzic will be the attacking fullback option. Obviously, with that transfer of Niklas Sule, which was highly unplanned, we had to find a centre back. And this is where the £32 million signing of Rafa Marin came from PSV. I'll show you last season's pizza chart so you can see why I went for him. And there you see it, he had an absolute elite season after transferring over from Napoli. He is only 24 years of age, so he's 6 years younger than Sule. He could be a great option. Now granted, he may be taking a step up in level, but I think it's worth a try. So as we go into season 2, you'll notice that the first choice 11 is pretty much the same as last season, apart from the inclusion of Marine there. There he is, he jumped straight into the team. Like I said, the big competition for places will be the defensive midfield slot here, where a few players are going to share the workload to allow Couto to keep on bombing up. We'll change Rierson if we need a more attacking option to Terzic, and the deep lying forward position, although Gerassi had a great season last season, it's good to have a bit of competition, and we've got that in Roberto Piccoli and Yusufa Makoku. Having said that, the season preview, they don't fancy our chances too much and have us down in 3rd position. Our first chance to prove people wrong was the Super Cup against FC Bayern. Having fallen behind early, we fought back really well. There's Couto doing what Jan Couto does, bombing down the right hand side and finding Julian Brandt. And after a quiet season last season, Brandt was there to score the second and give us the win. We've also done a great job of lowering the average age of the squad. It's now only 25 with our oldest player at 30 years of age. After that, we really got into the season and we started it with a stunning away victory at RB Leipzig, a booming 3-1 win at home to Leverkusen, a great away draw at FC Bayern, and even in the Champions League we looked good as well, beating Atletico Madrid. It means at the midway point of the season we've only lost 1 match and we're top of the league by a point from FC Bayern. Also in the other competitions, it's a much better performance in the Champions League and we're in the quarterfinals once again of the Pokal. With the big task to replace Niklas Sule, Rafa Marin has proved us right. He's been absolutely colossal at centre back. And Jan Couto continues his great form at right wing back. He's actually getting better in defence as well. And now fully settled as an out and out striker, Adeyemi has been elite. 19 goals, 21 matches so far. With Felix Nemecha developing into one of the best all-round midfielders in the league. Next to him, the combinations of players being the holding player with Ozcan and Bidstrup together doing a great job. As we got to the end of the season, there was disappointment in the Champions League as we ran Barcelona close. They knocked us out 3-5 on aggregate. But in the big games domestically, my boys were absolutely firing on all cylinders. In his role as rotational striker, Roberto Piccoli had a pizza chart to die for in terms of a striker. Exceptional. He actually forced himself in ahead of Gerassi, who still had a good season, both of whom supporting the prolific Adeyemi, who has just been outrageous with 32 goals so far. And you join us at a pivotal point of the season. We've still only lost one match. This team has been fantastic. It was to Eintracht Frankfurt early in the season. We are 1 point clear of FC Bayern as it stands. And you know the next match is FC Bayern. We've also got the semi-finals of the Pokal coming up, and interestingly, Bayern have already been knocked out. And in that big match, well, it ended 0-0, but it wasn't for the want of trying, as I think we got the better of it. And in the Pokal semi-final, we get our revenge over Frankfurt, beating them 4-1 to progress to the final. And that result seemed to give us a boost, as the next 6 matches we smashed in the goals. But as we kept winning, so did FC Bayern. However, perhaps distracted by getting to the Champions League semi-final, they dropped 2 crucial points at home. That means as we go into the final game of the season, it's in our hands to get this title back. In the final game of the season, 2 of the standout players from this season stepped up. Goal machine Adeyemi scored the first, and then into the second half it was Rierson who actually provided the assist for Julian Brandt. And that 2-0 win finally restored the Bundesliga title to Borussia Dortmund. And we really capped off the season in the Pokal final in a balmy 9-goal thriller against Bayer Leverkusen. Piccolo scored the 6th as we become double winners, which locked down an incredible domestic season. So there you have it, folks. A stunning domestic season, topped off with that league title. Let me get it up here and you can see how well they actually did. 89 points, Bayern right on our heels with 86, but we only lost 1 match near the start of the season to Frankfurt, scoring 94 times, only conceded 29. What I like most about this is we didn't bring in an absolute ton of players. From day one when we got there, 9 of that starting 11 that you see there were at the club, and we've only brought in total a few players. In fact, over the 2 seasons, there's 8 total transfers, but 2 of those were already pre-arranged, so 6 total transfers for us came in, and pretty much all of them were a success. I mean, this man sums it up. Roberto Piccoli picked up for dirt cheap. He was at Frankfurt, bought him for 6.75 million, and for us, he has just been ridiculous. And the potential risky signing of the kind of unproven Rafa Marin, I mean, he is a colossal. He won more headers. In fact, he was probably overall a better player than Sula was for us. But we've managed to make good players better by putting them in their preferred roles. Remember the mess that Jan Couto was in when we first got here. He didn't know if he was a winger or a fullback. He was no good doing either, really. We just said to him, you're a complete wing back, go for it. Outrageous, 20 assists this season. And Adeyemi up front, few little niggles, but he still managed 35 goals this season. Absolutely blasted it with 23 in the league in 32 matches. I mean, I could go on and on about the performances. The Metch is now a really good defensive midfielder. Ozcan shared the load really well with Bidstrup. If he wasn't performing, we'd take him off, and then we'd bring on Bidstrup, who did a similar job. Both of them can win tackles for days. And after a bit of a quiet season last season, Julian Brandt came back into it this season with 17 goals, 20 assists. Didn't ask him to do any defending, just said get up there, do what you're best at. So with the squad being made a lot more streamlined and a lot more younger, for a deficit of what, 19 million? I think that's a job well done. Today we combine 2 things. We combine the beauty of data and Moneyball with the smash mouth play of Hoofball, aka long ball football. And we're going to transform one of the best teams in Italian football to play this Hoofball style. So if you've seen any of the videos so far, you'll know that we start off with the setup, and here we've got the top 5 leagues in Europe, plus Belgium, plus Holland, plus Portugal. Now once we add ourselves in, we then start unemployed. And the skin we're using, are you listening folks, is the Musterman iconic skin. That's going to be vital for this. Now next up, we have to holiday for a year to let the game build data from all the leagues. So I usually set it to the following year, 2024, and then the end of the season, somewhere around mid to late May. So we fast forward a year, so I've got slightly ahead. I'm at the 1st of June 2024. Now the plan was to take over AC Milan. However, then I saw this. Inzaghi got sacked by Inter Milan. Checking out the league table, my initial plan of AC Milan, well, they've just won the league, so I don't really want to go there. And Inter, despite finishing second, he still got sacked. So finishing second at Inter Milan means you get sacked, especially if you finish trophyless. So we're going to have a lot of pressure on us from the get-go. But the good news is the data is all packed out, so we can judge this squad and see what we need to do. So now that's done, we can get into this Moneyball and Hoofball combination. But this is where this Moneyball save gets a bit different, because some players who are absolutely class at one thing won't be perfect for what we're going to try to achieve. So taking over Inter Milan, on the face of it, isn't a big challenge, is it? They've got a great squad, as we know, and it's a deep squad, but they're not set up for what we're trying to achieve. For countless seasons now, under Inzaghi, Inter have played the three at the back system. However, we will be looking to play a version of a 4-4-2 and smashing that ball upfield as fast as possible. We will be playing much more direct passing at all times. So we're going to look to launch the ball forward and get crosses into the box for some big forwards. So now we've established what we're going to play next season. 4-4-2, long ball football, plenty of crosses. So have last season's performances gave us the players that can fit straight in? Well, it's time to drill down into this squad and see which players we're going to use for next season. At this point, I'll point out what I will be looking for from my players. The first one's pretty obvious. I need a good range of headers won. But what of these metrics am I not really looking at? Progressive passes I don't really need, because I'm just going to get it and hoof it up. And that's why we kind of need to disregard, as we get going, passes completed as well, because we're going to lose the ball an awful lot. What we do need to do is win it back, and we need to win our headers as well. That was Alessandro Bastoni, who's a centre-back, and obviously his headers won percentage was great. Hakan Calhanoglu, who's a great player, headers won at only 28%. He might struggle to fit in. And if you look at his abilities, that's a wild thing to say considering how good he is, but he might not fit into this system. From my fullbacks and wingers, I'm looking for a couple of things, namely expected assists, dribbles, and crosses. And this is where we go away from the pizza chart and look into other areas of the data as well. The player's personal data hub will come in handy here, and that's available on every skin. Now, Denzel Dumfries, a player I want to use, ranks pretty highly for crosses attempted per 90 minutes, but his cross completion ratio isn't great. As far as dribbles go, he's second in the entire league, but he's also way up there in terms of possession loss, so he needs to tighten up. His season overall has been pretty bizarre. He's ranked above average in attacking roles for fullbacks, largely down to his dribbles, but his cross completion rate is nowhere, and his assists per 90 minutes, I mean, what has he been doing? So obviously last season in the old formation, he played as a wing back on the right hand side, but to get 0 assists mean that's pretty much a disaster of a season. So he's a tough case. Normally I would discard somebody off that sort of performance, but if you look at his abilities as well, which we need to look at when we're doing it this slightly different way, he's got above average jumping reach and strength. He's aggressive, he's fast, he can cross, he dribbles, and he's 6'2". He fits the remit and he's winning a lot of headers. And that's probably the key thing that's gave him another chance here. He wins a lot of headers. He's got another chance in Hoofball. So before any transfers, he slots in at right back. DiMarco will slot in at left back. He had a better season overall than Dumfries with 5 assists. I would still like to see a lot more. So he's not a tall player at 5'9", but he can also play centre back. So that means he's not that bad in the air, and he won 53% of his duels. So that will come in handy as well. Again, he ranked highly in terms of attacking for defenders, but I'd like to see that cross completion rate get a bit higher. It's currently at 13%, with the top sort of guys in around the 20 range. These guys up here have probably only played a couple of matches, so we want him to be around this range, but attempting more crosses, so ideally DiMarco would be around here. With Inter being a team that plays 3 centre-backs, it's no surprise to see that we've got a truckload of defenders. Their job will be pretty simple: win the ball back, win headers, pass it forward. Benjamin Pavard, on the face of it, looks like he had a really good season, but I would like to see his headers won get a bit higher. We've already seen Bastoni. I would disregard the tackles won column because he's obviously played as a cover defender last season. Everything looks okay for him. Acerbi played a lot and won a lot of headers, but at 37, he's probably going to be a bench player. And I would like to get Bisek involved this season, currently on loan at PSV. It's hard to judge his performance because he's only played 540 minutes. Goalkeeper won't be an issue because Jan Sommer's outstanding. He prevented a load of goals, won the ball back, and passes completed is great. Now that's interesting. If we look at his abilities as well, his kicking, his passing, his technique and his vision are all above average, which he's going to need because he's going to be my sweeper keeper. And the key point there in that description is direct through balls, which we're going to do an absolute load of. As far as his performance in passing in the league, there's only a couple that better him, but bear in mind those are probably shorter ones, so we'll see how he goes. So the back four I'm happy with. We will have to keep an eye on Dumfries though, because we need a much better performance from him this season. As we move into defensive midfield, we've gone for a double Segunde Volante. Reason for this is I want them to get up and down the pitch, and a lot of the time they're going to get on flick-ons from a wide target forward or a target forward. First up, Barella. Now the negatives on Barella is obviously his height at 5'8" for this style of football, which means his headers won is 16%. Not great. However, if you look at his physicals, his endurance, fitness, stamina, work rate, which means he gets around the pitch everywhere. He also wins the ball back, which is crucial, and he supplies some good assists. So my big worry was trying to get Hakan into the team. If we play them both, we're going to be struggling for headers because he only wins 28% of his headers. Although he does win the ball back a lot and he doesn't give the ball away much either. So I'd love to start with those two and then adapt if we need to and maybe get shortlisting some defensive midfielders of a more defensive nature just in case that doesn't go well. So that's what I did when I'm building my shortlist for these defensive midfielders. Height of at least 6 foot, headers won percentage at least 40%, but we could even stretch that to 50. Possession lost is at most 10 per match per 90 minutes. Shortlist was whittled down to 4, the emphasis being more defensive based central midfielder, and all these 4 can play centre back. Eric Martel is in the German second division at 6'2", he wins the ball back an absolute ton, barely gives it away and wins a lot of headers. Now if I compare him with Hakan and we use the bar charts for comparison, we can see the difference in the two players. Less effective going forward than Hakan, but we expected that, but he wins more headers and he wins more tackles and he wins the ball back overall more often. More of a defender is Diakabi, who is currently at PSG, but he wins a colossal amount of headers, but he hasn't played enough to evaluate. In our league is Umar Solé, who's at Udinese, played most of the season as a centre-back, but 73% of headers won, wins the ball back a ton, won't be as good on the ball as Hakan. There also may be an option in-house in Benjamin Pavard. He hasn't played there much this season, but he can play in defensive midfield. And although he didn't win a lot of headers in terms of centre-backs, if you change that to defensive midfielders, he then does look pretty impressive. So we'll start off with a double volante with the attacking one of Hakan. If that doesn't work out, I can shift Barella into there and move Pavard into that central midfield spot. So we're cooking on gas now. A lot of the team is already there, which is not a shock because Inter have a good squad. It just depends how they're going to adapt to this football. Remember, this is the key thing. It's much more direct. They're getting it and they are launching it. That could be deemed as long passes. It can be deemed as riskier passes. Now you'll notice up front, I've already picked Martinez and Thuram. Martinez, without doubt, is an exceptional striker. He's not the biggest at 5'9", so he's going to be the one I'm looking for to get on the end of knockdowns. Knockdowns from 2 target forwards. First will be Thuram, who I've shifted out to a wide target forward. Now I could have used him as a striker. He's 6'4". He's already proven with 19 goals, 35 matches. But I can't ignore the fact that he's capable of playing out wide, and to have someone of his size out wide I think will be perfect. Now that does leave me with 2 gaps, another target forward and an out-and-out winger. Now because this squad is basically set up for wing backs, they don't actually have really advanced wingers, so it's someone we need to find. It's a similar story when it comes to target forward. We've got Thuram, who they are suggesting, then you've got Mehdi Taremi, who at 32 hasn't played much, and Arnautovic, who's about to leave the club, and Correa also out of contract. So alongside the midfield shortlist, I set up another couple as well. I've got fullback Hoofball, which we'll get to, target forward and winger. Target forward has brought up a list of 9 players. The main thing I'm looking for from this target forward is his height at 6 foot, his headers won ratio at 50%. Once we have our shortlist, we can have a look a bit deeper. Obviously, we want to be a goal scoring threat as well. So Nesri at 22 goals in 35 is not a bad option. But I'm unwilling to spend that sort of money. For example, Skamaka would have been perfect. He wins 50% of his headers. He scored 19 times in the very league we're partaking in. But 31 to 38 million. So we end up having 2 choices. The first is Lorenzo Luca, 6'7", an absolute giant of a player. Wins 50% of his headers, and this season has scored 17 times in only 24 starts. And the other player is homegrown Francesco Paio Esposito. Now this season he's been on loan at Spezia, so playing in Serie B. He hasn't won as many headers as Luca, but his goal return is equally as good. So one option could be for that target forward role is to go true Moneyball style and have 2 players of potential to fill that role. But the big problem position was going to be the right winger, the advanced right winger. We don't have anyone in the squad who can do that role. So what I was looking for here was crosses attempted, at least 6 per match because we need to supply those forwards. Dribbles made to get him into that position, and a modest target on assists per 90 minutes of just 0.10. We whittled it down to 5 players and it was kind of slim pickings and high values on all the players. The perfect signing would have been Pepe at Porto. Good dribbles, he doesn't even lose the ball and he wins it back, so he can do a bit of everything. But the value is so high, I don't think we can afford it. Similar story for Orsolini, who is in our league, and his expected assists are fantastic, as is his goal return, but 50 million for a 28-year-old just is not going to happen. In fact, they were all pretty much out of our budget. So unless I can get some funds together in the next month, I might have to have a rethink, and that rethink might be in-house yet again, and it might involve dropping this player back to a more traditional winger position. Our boy Denzel Dumfries, who didn't have a great season playing as wing-back, can play higher up the pitch as a traditional winger. Now, in terms of a fullback, his performances weren't great, but if he was suddenly slotted in to be a winger, things look a little bit better, and he does win a lot of headers being 6'2". So I can't find a winger that hits the value, but if I move Dumfries to there, maybe I can find a fullback to slot into that position. And to be honest, Dumfries wasn't great further back last season, so it might be a blessing in disguise. The initial search for a fullback brought up 3 or 4 names. Geertruida looks like a solid option, but far too expensive. And the final option was Kylian Seldilia, who looks more like a centre-back, but his cross-completion percentage was the top in the Bundesliga, so he's very tempting. Another option from the Bundesliga would be Nordi Mukiele, whose headers won is fantastic, and again, he doesn't give the ball away and wins it back. He could be a solid backup for Dumfries, so Dumfries can just bomb on. So the shortlist is built, and we'll have a go at that, getting ready for the new season. There's only one more position I think I really need. If you look at the squad here, I've got 6 on the bench that I'm happy with. All these guys are either retiring or will be sold, so there is a couple of players that need to come in, and one position I do need is backup to Thuram at wide target forward. Okay, pre-season is done, transfers are done. This is the way the team looks. You can see we've changed a few things in it, but that will be the starting team. Sommer in goals, and we've got a different back four. We've got DiMarco, Bastoni, Bisek, and I'm going to move Pavard out to right fullback. That might seem on the face of it a surprise decision, but if you look at his role suitability, he's a natural at fullback as well. He plays there a lot for Bayern when he played for Bayern. And if you look at his abilities, all of his technical things such as crossing are above average, so I think he'll be a good fit to back up Dumfries. Dumfries will be on the wing, and then we've got that double volante of Barella and the more attacking Hakan. We'll start with that to see how it goes. A wide target forward of Thuram, and up front Martinez. Luca will start, but Esposito is breathing down his neck. You also may notice that I've bugged out the squad in terms of the bench. I can't take credit for this one. Lindelof was a signing pre-done by the previous regime. Comes in on a free transfer. I decided to go for Nordi Mukiele to provide cover at right back. Only 10 million. Luca cost me 18 million. So in came Haji Wright, a shock signing from Coventry in the English Championship. Let me show you why I've gone for him. Basically at 6'4", he's a goal threat, he can provide assists, and he wins a ton of headers. In fact, he won 179 headers last season. Granted, he played as a striker for nearly the entire season, but he's off, so more than capable of being a natural in that wide target forward role. I've future-proofed the team by signing Ruben van Bommel. He's only 20 years old and he's 6'4", and his chart just shows what he's capable of. He wins headers over 40%, he wins the ball back, puts himself about. At the midway point of the season, how has this passing directness much more direct affected us? Well, at the halfway point of the season, we are second in the table behind local rivals AC Milan, with Roma and Atalanta in the mix as well. We started the season electrically beating Napoli at home 5-2. And a big win against local rivals AC Milan with some big looping crosses. Indeed, this was somewhat of a theme. One of the best results was this 4-1 away win at Juventus, which included 38% possession. And this was definitely a theme of the season, as in terms of possession, we are nowhere to be found, in fact, 18th out of all of the teams. In his midfield role, Denzel Dumfries was playing far better, much more of an attacking threat. In fact, if you look at him in terms of attacking midfielders, he's still pretty competitive. He'd been able to do this with Benjamin Pavard playing in behind him, but he wasn't exactly having a great season. He was probably better going forward than he was in defence. I won't lie, I was a bit worried about Hakan in central midfield. Although he's been fantastic going forward, a lot of the goals have been penalties, assists have been from corners, and defensively, he's offering nothing, which has meant midfield partner Barella has had to take up a lot of the workload. Esposito and Luca have been sharing that target forward role, and Esposito is currently starting, having performed superbly. But Luca as well, when he gets on the pitch, he basically scores. His goals per game ratio is insanely good. Player of the season so far? That's been Marcus Thuram. In this new role, he's not scoring goals, he's only scored 3 times, but he's got 11 assists at that wide target forward position. So some good performances, but definitely some areas to improve. Now, if you look at the league table as well, we are second, but we've already lost 3 times. Fiorentina, Roma, Atalanta. We've conceded 15, but scored 56. So they're scoring a truckload of goals despite not having the ball. We're just launching it upfield and getting a load of crosses. But having looked at the data, I think we can improve this team for the running. And the big choice will be Hakan. So he's playing great attackingly, but going backwards, offering us nothing. So I'm going to make the tough decision to leave him out. I'm going to put Barella into the more attacking volante position, and I'm going to drop Hakan. I didn't manage to get a defensive midfielder in, so what I'm going to do is, and it's a bit of a controversial one, I'm going to move Pavard into the second defensive midfield slot. So Pavard's been playing as a fullback and he's been playing well going forward but not so great going back. But I just think if I put him into defensive midfield and he can repeat that job defensively where he's winning the ball back, winning tackles and crucially 79% of headers, I think that'll be a better so Barella can bomb on. Now that will mean that I can put Mukalele in the team and he's won 73% of his headers. So it's a bit of a risk, but we're going a bit more solid. I just think Barella can do that job and Pavard will offer us a bit more protection. In fact, I might even, and I'm gonna drop him into defensive midfield. So he's not even going to be a volante. He's going to sit. So playing much more direct passing, hoofball, it does mean you're not going to have a lot of possession. So yeah, if you're looking for a tick attacker, this ain't it. They get the ball and they hoof it and try and win the ball and the second balls. And you can see that here. Passes attempted, rock bottom. Serie A by an absolute mile. But we are joint top for headers won and top for crosses completed by a big distance. In the Champions League, we made it through to the knockouts pretty comfortably and we faced Barcelona. The first leg it was 1-1 where we probably should have got more goals. Similar story in the second leg as we got 2-1 on aggregate, but it was mighty close. The good news was we had a cup final to look forward to thanks to yet another deep cross. A Milan derby awaited us for the final, but how about the league? In terms of possession, playing hoofball all season meant we were still down in 18th, but we had created the most chances in the league at 158. A clear winner in terms of headers won, rock bottom in terms of passes attempted, but we sailed clear in terms of crosses completed. And in the league, with 3 games to go, it is locked at the top. In the Coppa Italia final, we only managed 33% possession in the entire match, but yet another Lorenzo Luca header scored us a famous victory. To be fair, we were rock solid and AC Milan couldn't break us down. And the league looked like it was going to the final game of the season and we've already scored 101 goals. So concentrating on boring basic goals continued in the last game of the season. The philosophy of getting the ball upfield and crossing it in early was working. And we finished with a 6-0 win over Bari. And Roma bottled it on the last game of the season, losing to Venezia, which gave Inter and Hoofball the Serie A title. So I didn't expect to accomplish that in season 1, but you know, Inter have got a great squad, so they've adapted to it really well, and the additions were perfect. Luka got a bit more game time in the second half of the season, but that record is ridiculous. He's won over half of his headers, but his goals to game ratio, 23 goals, 18 starts. Remember, he shared that job with Esposito, who finished with 25 goals this season. Nearly 50% of his headers were won as well, and the change from Dumfries from this season compared to last season, it's like night and day. If I put him in as a fullback, you can see his assists are outrageous, but he played more as an attacking midfielder there, so that's more accurate of the way his season went. And throwing Pavard into that central midfield spot there, just purely for his headers won, 67%, just meant that Barella could just bomb on. But Thuram, player of the season up there, he probably hated it, but he did end up with, catch this, 26 assists as a wide target forward. That's a lot of headers won, 41% as for an attacking midfielder. That is a lot, so he did his job perfectly. But they adapted to that long ball style really well with a plus 35 clear-cut chances in the positive against all opposition. So we accomplished our feat in 1 season with Inter, building a squad based on the physical side of the data, worth the treat. Today we're going to combine Moneyball and data to create fluid, expressive, passing play inspired by total football to restore Ajax back to the top of Dutch football. So here we are then on the 25th of May 2024, which means all that lovely data will be now loaded up for all these players. And the good news for us is Ajax haven't had the best season. I mean, it wasn't a bad season, but yet again they failed to win the league. And they also got knocked out of the cup in the second round, and Rangers knocked them out of the Conference League, so no silverware all round. And that's where we come in. We're about to add ourselves to be the new Ajax manager, and it's time to bring them back to their total football style glory. The good news is we've got a big squad and a lot of players out on loan who are due to come back as well, not forgetting the famous Ajax youth setup. First up, let's have a little look who they brought in from the start. It looks about 6 or 7 players who they brought in. Serge Aurier, Ariel Semse, Alexander Pavlovic from Bayern, Mark Pubel, £10 million on that right back, Cem Turkan and Jeremy De Leon. So they have brought quite a few players in. And the budget it's left me with for next season is about 12 to 15 million, but a hefty wage budget, so I might have to go quite careful in season 1. Saying that, I'm pretty confident with all these players to come back as well that we can probably work with our current squad for the first season. As we get to the tactic, let's remember what we're going to try and accomplish here. We want short, expressive passing with plenty of playmakers and plenty of flair. And when we start shortlisting, we're going to look for those expressive players, such as those in the chances created charts, the assist table, key passes, and who doesn't love someone who can dribble the ball? So it's early days and this might change, but I'm going for a pretty standard 4-3-3 in shape, but that's where the standardness stops, as we've got a libero that will link up with a deep line playmaker, a wing back on one side to overlap a trequartista ahead of him, a roaming playmaker to do exactly what he wants, central midfielder on attack to back up the complete forward, and with a more traditional winger who's going to be allowed to roam around on the right hand side. So I'm not set yet, but it's kind of the vibe I want. So we've got players like the trequartista and the roaming playmaker that will roam around, but it will leave us crazy open. So I'll probably have a third version where we scale it back a bit for those bigger European games. Now, if we're going to go a bit more attacking, I'm toying with a double trequartista combination where the central midfielder on attack jumps forward and just hovers around there. Just for games where we should dominate, there should be quite a few in this Dutch league. Probably won't use that against Barcelona away from home though. Now we have a massive squad here, so it's time to have a little look at it and see who's going to fit into this philosophy and system. Number one goalkeeper this season was Mateus. He's on loan from Braga at 32. He's got an injury at the minute, so he's missed quite a bit of the season, 3 months, but they do have an optional future fee locked in, but I'm wondering if 5 million is a little bit too expensive. But overall, he had a pretty decent season and he's good with the ball. And his backup is Remco Pasveer, who is 41, so I can't really rely on him. Back to the tactics screen, I need to find a player capable of playing this libero or ball-playing defender role. Now we've got a good clutch of centre-backs here. Now Reggiani's going to be going back to Juventus. A definite starter will be Josip Sutalo. Now looking at his performance last season, he probably could do that libero role because he's quality at dribbling, he wins the ball back and hardly ever loses it, with a decent pass completion rate. If I look at his abilities as well, he's above average in terms of possession, so he's a good option. There's a couple of younger centre-backs who are hard to judge because they just haven't had the game time. And then there's Jakov Medic, who is out on loan at the minute, at 26-year-old, 6'4". He's a bruiser of a centre-back. He's been playing in German football and his headers won is fantastic at 80% and he wins the ball back a decent amount. But there is a clear winner when it comes to the libero, and it's Jarell Hato. Only 19, so he might be a bit inconsistent, carries the ball superbly well. Last season he lost the ball a little bit too much, with possession lost at 5.39, but he was also playing at left back, so that might explain that. At the minute it's their centre back positions. It would appear that I'm spoilt for choice at full back. They spent 10 million on Mark Pubel. He's hardly played, so it's really hard to judge him yet. Last season Serge Aurier was the preferred right back, but I don't think he's what I'm looking for. Pubel gets the nod initially. One area of the pitch we are struggling a little bit in is left back. Windal's going to take it down. In fairness, he's a good left back anyway, with some decent assists, wins the ball back quite a lot, but he did give the ball away a little bit too much for my liking last season. But he does get the spot at left back, but he will have to improve, but that will be the starting back four. As expected for an Ajax team, we've got a boatload of players who can play in midfield. First candidate is Jordan Henderson at 34. Last season, he wasn't great though. Not many progressive passes, didn't complete many passes, gave the ball away a little bit too much for defensive midfielder. I think his time is up. Branko van den Boomen. Now, last season he played in midfield mostly, more an advanced role. And when he plays in the more advanced role, his pie chart looks pretty good. So putting him as a defensive midfielder, where things like progressive passes and passes completed and possession lost becomes a concern, would be a hell of a risk. Kenneth Taylor is capable of playing in that DM slot, but I'm going to use him higher up the pitch, but I will expect more attacking output from him. Pavlovic, who they signed from Bayern, looks more impressive in terms of defending, hardly losing the ball and winning it back. And another option will be Sivert Mansverk, who was on loan in the Championship with Cardiff last season. At the minute, I'm going for Taylor as a roaming playmaker, Van den Boomen to get forward, with this spot currently up for grabs. In terms of attacking midfielders, Steven Berghuis, pretty elite for this sort of level. A great season last season with 13 total assists, and you can see that on his chart. Expected assists are good, goals are good, he gets plenty of shots away, a good all-round player. Only concern, 33 years of age. Highly tempting is Oliver Edvardsen. He didn't play much last season, but when he did play, what an impact with 10 goals. On the other side, Calico needs to do a hell of a lot more than last season. Pretty disappointing stuff. He played 37 times from that position last season, 2 goals, 7 assists, but his overall output was pretty weak. Last season's main striker was Brian Brobbery. He scored 17 goals overall, but only 9 of those in the Eredivisie. A completely different type of striker is Wout Weghorst, whose goals per game record is absurdly good. With a limited amount of minutes, he outperformed his expected goals by almost double. He could be a great impact player. So depending on what player plays in this position will determine the role. Now, like I said at the start, there's a boatload of players that are out on loan who can probably do a job for us. Check out Chuba Akpom, who's been in Ligue 1 with Lille. He's played 17 times for them, scored 9. Nice looking pie chart. Christian Hilmsen's been on loan in our league at Rotterdam. He's done okay, but it's maybe a bit early for him. Carlos Borges has been on loan at Wolves and has not got a kick. He's got a high value, so he might be somebody that I need to give a little chance to. But look at his abilities, they're all above average with some standouts. So already things are loading up. I've got gaps in goalkeeper, a deep line playmaker and striker, but I still think I've got the players to fill those roles. I'm just not sure which ones I want to go there. Now if you look at my bench, it's absolutely packed, and I haven't even started looking at the youth setup yet for some players that might be able to jump up. But I will look now, and these are the top 4 candidates so far. In honesty, there's an absolute boatload of players in that youth setup who could be squad players for us. But I think the best thing to do is go to the squad here, and the ones that I think have got a chance, get them on loan for this season, then I can watch them at a higher level, see if they're ready. Having looked at shortlist a few goalkeepers, ones that kept goals out and didn't lose the ball, it was becoming pretty clear that the players I wanted are going to be of too high a value. So the 5 million move for Mateus might well be back on. There is still time to make this move. This is Yannick Lelandal, who's a left fullback who's exceptional in terms of the defensive side of the game and not bad going forward as well. With the way we're going to play, Karol Aitin is one to look out for. He was third in the entire league in terms of chances created, and that was from largely a deep line playmaker position, which is just what I need. And you can see from his key metrics, his expected assists are fantastic. He doesn't give the ball away much and he wins it back. He could be a potential bargain. Watch this space. At the higher end of the transfer scale is Taylor Booth. He's at 20, so he'll be gettable, but that value is crazy. But in terms of output for a winger, 10 goals and 9 assists is outstanding. And a wild card that caught my attention was Ali Yassim. Can play either on the wing or as a striker. What he's exceptional at is dribbling. He's one of the top dribblers in the league. In fact, he's only second to Calvin Stenz. He's definitely a rough diamond though, as you can see from his performance last season as an attacking midfielder, but his performance as striker makes it look a bit more appealing. And he does pressure the ball a lot. So a hard-working maverick, man, that sounds good. As we are about to start our first season, big movement in terms of transfers out. Big movement. I was concentrating on lowering the overall age of the squad, so players like Jordan Henderson went to Wolves, and then the Saudi Express with Serge Aurier, Davy Klaassen, and regretfully, Steven Berghuis. The offers were just too good for players of that age, and also out the door went a lot of young players, mostly on loan. That meant my first team squad was streamlined like I like it. In from last season's scouting was Karol Aitin, the deep line playmaker, and also electric winger from last season Ali Yassim, who was second overall in terms of dribbles. He was actually on loan at Almere City from Como, cost us 5.5 million. And I did make that move of Mateus permanent for 5 million. Granted he's 33, but he should be solid for a good 3 years. Alongside that, a lot of the players from last season who were out on loan, such as Borna Souza, will come into reckoning, and Sivert Mansverk might be a surprise choice in central midfield on attack. So in pre-season, it was good to see some of the players we signed doing what we thought they could. This is Ali Yassim. He's been bought because he's going to be an exceptional dribbler, and that's exactly what he does here, as he progresses the ball down the right-hand side to lead to one of the goals. And in the Super Cup against Feyenoord, it was good to see that Aitin here, the playmaker that we brought in because of his key passes and assists, started off straight away. Speaking of the Super Cup, it was an epic 4-4 draw that went to penalties. Junior Van Persie scored to give Feyenoord the win. All the same though, a promising performance, and with that XG with our playmakers and dribblers running riot, signs are good. So I'm quite excited about the season. Pre-season's been interesting. We did manage to lose to Luton, which was bizarre, but this game against Feyenoord that we just showed you, that XG, from the pure amount of quality chances we've created, largely thanks to the formation and the setup of being, well, let's be honest, pretty expressive, means we could have an exciting season. Soutalo has been wanted by every team in Saudi, every team in Spain, every team in the Premier League, and I've just been fielding offers left and right. No one's come up to my valuation of about 65 million. I'm hoping they go away. However, if they don't, we know that Jakov Medic can step in. It will be a step up for him, but last season we saw he's completely dominant in the air. So, fingers crossed, we've already got the solution in-house. With regards to transfers, we brought in 28.5 million. I did send a lot of the young players like Reichhoff on loan for the season. I'm hoping a good season out on loan will mean next season they can be impactful for us. We brought all our players in at the back end of last season, thanks to those data metrics. We knew about Mateus, but I'm excited about Karol Aitin. He comes in from 20. Peanuts, 3.2 million. But Ali Yassim, this is what I love about Moneyball saves and data approach. I have never heard of this guy. Signed from Como, who couldn't get a kick there. He's already started the lecture. And there will be a bit of pressure this season because we haven't won the league again. Feyenoord are the favourites, but we are slotted in at second favourites. And if we look at the Media Dream 11, we've only got 2 in it. Sotalo and Heto. The rest are a combination of PSV, Feyenoord and AZ Alkmaar. At the midway point of the season, things were looking good as a lovely flowing move gave us a big win over Feyenoord. We also got an outrageous away victory in the Champions League at Manchester City, following that up with a big home win against Dortmund, and we even beat Aston Villa. So a hugely successful first half of the season. We're sitting top of the league by 3 points from AZ and PSV. Champions League has been a real surprise as we are undefeated sitting in second position. So things have gone really well. They've adapted to this style perfectly. Player of the season so far has been Owen Vindal at left fullback. His pizza chart is to absolutely die for. Expected assists, even his goals, which I'm not too concerned about, but his overall game, including passes completed, winning the ball back, it's superb. And on the other side, the right back Mark Pubel, who the previous regime brought in, fair play to them because he has been outstanding. Up front, Brian Brobbery, really good as the striker, playing as a complete forward, remember. And the big move, Joel Heto as libero, has done really well. I'm quite surprised that his dribbles are that low, but he has been passing the ball well. And it's all been backed up by the superb goalkeeper who's preventing goals, but he's equally fantastic with the ball at his feet. So it's going well, but the league is tight, so how can we improve this still further? Now, there is a key thing to think about here. It's the midfield three. So Karel Eiting is in the defensive midfield slot. So if you wanted to improve this tactic with no restraints, you could change this position up because, as you can see, he's hardly even winning the ball back. He's offering basically nothing in terms of tackles. He's applying pressure, but he's not winning the ball back. What he is doing is a truckload of expected assists and progressive passes is out of this world. And this is where this little challenge is slightly different because if I was looking to get the perfect tactic, that role is probably too advanced, too playmakery, so I'd change it up to a ball-win midfielder or a defensive midfielder. But because we're looking for fluid total football, I want a playmaker in there. I'm not concerned about his defending. He stays. It's a similar story for the other midfielders in the team. Kenneth Taylor, if you can look at him as a defensive midfielder there, he's absolutely nowhere apart from playing pressure, but he's playing more advanced and that's what we're getting out of him. And the other midfielder that's played most of the time is Mansverk as the attacking midfielder. As a defensive midfielder, he's not offering hardly anything. As an attacking midfielder, he's doing what I'm asking to. That does put a lot of pressure on the defence, and these guys have performed pretty well. And Karel Eiting continues to justify the signing. He is second in terms of key passes per 90 minutes, and for overall key passes, he's top with Kenneth Taylor third. So the midfield is doing exactly what I want them to do. The only slight disappointment maybe is Ali Yassim down the right hand side. His dribbles are still outrageous, and he is applying pressure, so he's working hard, but his overall output, I need a little bit more from him. But so far for the season, absolutely delighted with the way it's going. But overall, the total football philosophy of players roaming around wherever they like is working well. Look at this example here. When we win the ball back against Twente, Heto is our libero. Our only real centre-back who have asked to stick his position is Sutelo. Everybody else just bombs forward, pausing it there. Heto is a centre-back, Souza is a left-back, and Pubel and the deep-line playmaker are all involved in the attack. Scrolling out, Sutalo is the only guy staying back. At this point of the season, I've already started to build the shortlist for next season as well. And if you're not sure of a player, like this player Diego Spencer, I only added him to the shortlist last season. I'm going to see how he goes because he's only had 12 appearances, but so far he's been fantastic. If he continues this, he's on the shortlist and we can pull the trigger. Sometimes I take a risk judging the players on the first half of the season, such as these three who have tied up on deals to sign for free at the end of the season. With the ongoing interest in Sutelo, it makes sense to plan for centre-back. And Javi Sanchez at Real Valladolid fits the bill. Wins plenty of headers, wins the ball back, doesn't give it away. I need cover at left-back for the excellent Vidal, and Bradley De Noia fits the bill. He plays in our league, so I know he can perform, and that's a very nice looking pizza chart for a backup fullback. And the final signing is an exciting one of Andrea Colpani. A beautiful pizza chart, 8 goals, 4 assists already this season. That free transfer has potentially saved me 20 million. Okay, disappointment in the cup as we are knocked out convincingly, has to be said, by PSV. And in the league there were some disappointing results such as this one against Utrecht. Our next match was Feyenoord away and Sadio Mane playing for Feyenoord now got the winner. Although we responded with 7 straight victories, we end up finishing 3rd in the Eredivisie behind AZ Alkmaar and 4 points behind back-to-back champions Feyenoord. This, despite getting more points than last season, more goals for and less goals against, we just weren't quite good enough with this new style. So disappointing in the league, but do you remember when I told you that in the Champions League we looked even better? Sometimes this game throws wild things at you. Having stormed through the league phase in the top 8, only losing one match, and that was away at Real Sociedad. In the knockout round we drew Feyenoord. Sadio Mane scored again, but we scored twice. This led to the return leg where Feyenoord stole a winner, which did take the game to penalties. Chuba Akpom smashed in the winning penalty. This gave us giants into Milan in the quarter-final. We beat them 3-1 in the home leg, and in the return fixture we took a bit of a battering, but we managed to scrape through. So it was a home leg against Milan, and a revitalised Carlos Borge scored twice as we nailed a deserved victory. So it was back to the San Siro again, and Milan started well and did take the lead. And it got even worse in the second half as they chalked off our 2-goal advantage. The game goes to extra time, and in the 122nd minute, Carlos Borge was there again. As outrageously, we beat Milan and head to the Champions League final. I mean, I don't know how it happened, but it has. We had a decent run to the final. We've avoided the likes of Real, Bayern, but wow. So thanks to an injury, Pavlovic has forced himself into the deep line playmaker position. You can see why I've kept faith with him. His expected assists and his progressive passes have meant that he's just taken over in that DLP slot. Mansverk has been an outstanding success as a central midfielder on attack. He's scored 20 goals from that position. Add to that probably the best fullback performance in the entire division from Vindal. That is ridiculous. Means that despite coming third in the league, we did have a better season than last season. It's just the other two had better seasons. But despite coming third in the league, we still have a chance of an unbelievable season. It's a mad result, really. The goal of this was to be the top dogs in the Eredivisie again. We've not done that, and we're going to stick it out until we've done that. But this would be the bonuses of all bonuses. And we performed so well in Europe this season that basically my entire squad are now wanted by some of the biggest teams in Europe. So we'll get onto the Champions League final shortly, but what I have done is I've continued to build the shortlist ready for the new season. Some players on this shortlist have been absolutely outstanding, so we will be making moves in the pre-season. But for now, it's go time. We pushed them all the way, but we just couldn't quite get past the mighty Man City. But it was great to see youngster Van Axel Dongen come off the bench and score in that Champions League final. He'll have a big part to play next season. Overall, I'm happy with the squad, but we're going to get into that data now and see if we can improve this team, because we need to get back our Eredivisie title. Looking at the squad, I might have to get harsh to go to the next level. I really don't think I can improve at fullback because both Mark Pubil and Owen Vindal were absolutely fantastic. When I looked at their overall performance, creativity-wise, Vindal was outrageous. And for a more withdrawn fullback, Pubil was fantastic going forward as well. And he's doing his defensive job pretty damn well too. It's always tempting to think, can you get a better striker? However, Brian Brobbery had a great season scoring 19, and when I looked at his overall performance as a forward, he was at top of the metrics on most things. And the key thing is, being a complete forward, contributing to other areas of the game as well. I think we just need a high quality backup for him. Now, interestingly, the one player who has probably been disappointing, and you might not expect it, was Josip Sutelo. There he is, centre back. As you can see, it's pretty unspectacular. We've got to bear in mind though that when we play football, he is basically the only defender because everybody else has a bit of a license to bomb forward, so he does a lot of the work. But when I look at his player performance, I'm perhaps being too harsh because his overall defensive performance is classed as above average. He might be somebody we accept and then get somebody else in. Maybe two players to share his role. And the shortlist was looking beefy now, and there was quite a lot of centre-back options available to us. I'd love to bring in Bisek from Inter Milan, who hasn't really played much. Another good performer is Danilo Doki at Union Berlin, but these two players cost quite a bit of money. A budget option could be Andrew Gravelon, free transfer. We already have Javi Sanchez coming in, so one more might do the job. In terms of a striker to rival Brobbery, I had a shortlist of about 10. These players included Andrea Pinamonti, Ioannidis, who's not getting a kick at Wolfsburg but probably deserves more game time, Bosniak at Lille, Terem Moffi at Nice, and Cucho Hernandez at Real Betis, but he would be a big value signing. Midfield, I was tempted by Fofana, not getting much game time at AC Milan, and I think I've got to go for 19-year-old Buziani from Volendam. Deep into pre-season, we'd finalised 5 transfers. Backup goalkeeper Vlachodimos came in, and I spent 23 million on Cucho Hernandez. Initially scouted as a striker, I see him more on one of the wing roles and the prospect of a Rom Deter or a Trequartista role for him. In the meantime, we were bulldozing our way through the Club World Cup, smashing Boca 5-0, and in the first knockout stages, Palmeiras 3-1. Our run was ended by Real Madrid, but only just. We did make the decision to sell Josip Sutelo. We got £68 million for him. Pinamonte joined to provide competition up front for just £8 million, and with the signing of Gravelon confirmed, there'll be 3 players replacing Sutalo. Medic, Sanchez and Gravelon will combine to replace that one player. After a good pre-season, it was straight into Champions League qualifying, and Hernandez roaming around started fantastic. He scored twice as we're off to a flyer. Right, so this is the way the team looks this season. Hernandez is out here, right? He can play anywhere. He can be a Rom Doteur, he can be a blooming inside forward, a winger, a playmaker. Either side, we're going to start him out here. He's our biggest outlay of this entire story, 23 million, but he's worth double that already. I think it's a solid signing. There's a few spots that I'm unsure of so far. You can see the winger slot is up for grabs. It'll be a battle between Ali Yassim and Borges. The roaming playmaker slot, because we've dropped Taylor back, and that centre-back slot will be occupied by those 3 players combining to replace Sotelo. So thanks to that big move of Sotelo, 67 million has left the club, 7.5 million in, and then there's the moves last season of Vlachodimos, the reserve goalkeeper, Javi Sanchez, Colpani, Buzain, who I've sent back on loan to Volendam for a season because he's only 19, but I had to have him. And then we've got Cucho down there at 23.5 million. What this has done is it's put us favourites for the league title. So let's see if that's going to be the case, because that is the goal of this save. Rocking into the midpoint of the season, things are looking pretty good as we're top of possession, chances created, expected goals for, and shots for. That's led us to be top of the league. This is the season we wanted, and currently undefeated. We're also performing well in the Champions League again, highlighted by this 2-0 win over Juventus. And we've got a really good squad now for the system, and Cucho Hernandez has been a great success. Playing in that wide Trequartista role, he has been outrageous with 17 goals in 29 matches, with a beautiful looking pizza chart. Jakov Medic has won the battle to be the starting centre-back, and he's performing way better, to be fair, than Sutalo did. Highlight of the season so far has seen the continued rise of Carlos Borges. When we joined, he was a bit part player on loan in the Premier League, but now he's an outstanding attacking midfielder. Right, so far so good, the perfect season so far, and the gaps you see in the team out wide, the complete forward, and just below my head is the centre-back position. Those are the ones that I was going to rotate at the start of the season. Centre-back I haven't needed to because of the sheer quality form of Medic. There he is, been a superb centre-back. Now up front, Brian Brobbery has shared the load to some extent with Pinamonte. Brobbery started most of the matches, 19 appearances, 11 goals, decent little performance. But it's been nice to have Pinamonte to rotate in, and as you can see from his limited amount of minutes, only 10 starts, 7 goals, and he's contributing massively. Now the starting spot down the right hand side is Borges, but when he does need to rotate out, we've got options to do that. Specifically by Ali Yassim with his pace, power and dribbling ability. He's got 6 assists this season. This could be a case of him settling in, because last season he was a bit underwhelming, but he's already performed better in 13 matches this season than he did all of last season. So overall, a stunning start to the season. We've just got to see it through now, make sure we get what we came for, the Eredivisie. But as things stands, with this fluid 4-3-3 total football-esque style formation, it's a plus 47 clear-cut chances against our opposition. After making the league our main focus, we crashed out of the last 16 of the Champions League to Roma. And in the Dutch Cup, we crashed out with the Junior Van Persie in the final. But the league was always the main focus, and thanks to some big wins and the most dominating victory over a top team yet, we got the Eredivisie title back to Ajax for the first time since 21-22. With little bits of rotation, this was largely the team that got us there. Top scorer this season was Trequartista Cucho Hernandez. 31 goals from the left-hand side of the pitch is a remarkable effort, which took the pressure off Brian Brobbery, but he still managed 27 goals, with his backup Pinamonte making the most of the minutes that he had. We maintained that level of possession, chance creation and expected goals, and overall quite the result to get that fluid football back. And look, I wasn't trying to copy Johan Cruyff's style, but inspired by meant that this fluid tactic with the roaming playmaker going everywhere, the central midfielder bombing in the box, going wide, The wing back having no restraints. Trequartista was most of the time in here. He did whatever he wanted. It's just a beautiful little fluid formation that started from a 4-3-3 base. We had 4 players in the top 11 assist makers. And in open play key passes, new signing Kolpany was fantastic, finishing top with 74, way more than anyone else. Overall, a fantastic result, restoring Ajax to the top of Dutch football.